are live from East Dundee and the Polar Dome Ice Arena for the opening game of the Clash of Sticks Chicagoland tournament. This first game is going to be a big one for Kirkwood as they have a rematch from the Nashville Shootout against the Carolina Junior Canes. Kirkwood and Carolina hooked up 3 times in Nashville. Carolina won all 3 games. 2 of them were very close, 1-goal games. The game in between those 2 contests was a blowout, 7-2 Carolina. So Kirkwood has its hands full right off the jump here from Chicago. This is a team in Carolina that is very fast, very organized, and very good at finishing around the net. When Kirkwood made a mistake, it went the other way quickly and usually ended up in the back of the net. It was a team that if you give them an inch, they take a mile. So Kirkwood's going to have to be ready and prepared to handle that speed. They're going to have to stay organized themselves, especially on the defensive end. And they're going to need some moments of brilliance from individuals as well. It's going to take a big team effort. It's going to take a lot of high energy, high urgency. You know, effort was a big piece of the conversation in Nashville, especially during that 7-2 loss. So they're going to need to bring their A game as a team, but I also think it's going to take some individual moments of brilliance from the Stars as well. It's only a 4-team group this weekend, not the 6-team format we had last weekend. So Kirkwood can suffer a loss here and still find its way back with a path to the championship game. But a win here would clearly set them up for success this weekend, to give them a much cleaner path and not be chasing all day tomorrow to get in position for the Sunday final. But those moments of brilliance that I'm hinting at, we saw a lot of that last weekend at the Arctic Blast tournament, as here come your Kirkwood Stars onto the ice. Moments of brilliance like Rory Murray between the pipes. She has really found a new level of play since the turn of the calendar and just showed off an elite level of goaltending at the Arctic Blast tournament. Each game was just a new layer of how skilled she is as a goalie and just how important she is to this team. She had the game against Pekin Dragons, where Pekin was charging hard to come back in that one, and she completely closed the door on that. And with the amount of high danger chances they had, she pretty much stole that game from them, even though Kirkwood did win 3-0. Then pitched the shutout against Afton, her 5th shutout of the season. And then 2 games back-to-back against the Southern Illinois IceHawks. Just, again, like against Pekin Dragons, stacked up spectacular save after spectacular save. My article for the preview this morning is probably the longest section of clips we've had all season. And that's because Rory just gave me no end of highlights for herself. High volume and high danger. She was up to the task, kept the A2 IceHawks to only 2 games in each of those contests, which allowed them to rally from behind, tying them in the first game of group play, and then also winning in the championship 4-2. So gonna need a huge performance out of her. She was kept very busy and just faced the most relentless attack that she has seen all season. When last time these 2 teams met up, she's going to have to steal some of those breakaway chances, some of those transition chances that Carolina generates with their speed and organization. Rory's going to have to neutralize that with some more spectacular goaltending, more moments of brilliance between the pipes. And then on offense, Kirkwood's going to need some finishing skill of their own. I'm looking at Aiden Lamb to continue his absolute heater from that Arctic Blast tournament. Scored 6 goals last weekend to take over the team lead in goals scored at 19. He's got that lethal combination that you see up and down the roster on Carolina, that combination of speed and finishing skill. He is the main counter punch that Kirkwood has in that regard. He can not only, give him an inch, he'll take a mile. Carolina does turn a, run-of-the-mill turnover into a breakaway, but he knows what to do with it. He converts those breakaways at a very high rate. We're going to need a couple of those, I think, out of him today to get a win against this Carolina team. Then I also highlighted Liam Gale, who now has a point in 8 of the last 9 games after a 12-game streak without a point. So he's really come on since the turn of a calendar as well. That's a theme I think you're going to see with this team is the first-year players at the Peewee level comfortable at this new tier of competition, aging up. It's just a different caliber of hockey, and those first-year players are starting to settle in and show their true colors. Rory Murray's doing that in goal. Liam Gale's doing that on the score sheet. He was the second leading point scorer for last year's Squirt A1 Blue Note Cup champions. Only player who had more points than him is playing AAA this year. That gives you an idea of just how big of an impact player he was, and I'm looking for him to step into that role for this team here as well. The other 3 first-year players being Bodie, Blake, and David, they all need to make that similar jump as well. And then, of course, Bryson taking this opening face-off has been a big catalyst on offense. David is one of the team leaders in points because he has been Mr. Opportunistic, right place, right time, knows how to bury a rebound, and knows how to pick out a pass. I would say Bryson is someone who's creating a lot of those chances for David, just by the way that he can attack the zone and attack the net. Going to need to see more of that from him as well. But we are underway. Puck is on the ice here in East Dundee, the Polar Dome Ice Arena. Game 1 of the Clash of the Sticks here in the Chicagoland area. Rematch of the Nashville Shootout. As that puck gets to Rory, she keeps it live. So in that Nashville Shootout championship game, it looked like Carolina was out running away with it, just like they had in the second game between them. But Kirkwood really rallied back, found a big push late, and they thought they had the game-tying goal in the net with 3 seconds to go. Here's David taking a shot and scoring! David Kukla, lightning strike! And that's the moment of brilliance that I'm talking about, and that's the first-year Peewee post-Christmas bump that I'm talking about. David Kukla doing exactly what we talked about in the pregame. As Carolina comes in off sides, the Kirkwood got a 2-on-1 rush there. Carolina defender didn't look like he knew exactly what he wanted to do to break that up. Had 2 stars to try to cover. David held that puck, kept the pass as an open option, but then ultimately ripped it into the upper 90. And Kirkwood is on the board first here. I believe this is their first lead against Carolina in 4 games against them now. So it's going to be a different game script for Kirkwood than they had in 3 tries in Nashville against this same team. First time out in front, first time protecting a lead, and first time seeing this Carolina, this speedy, organized, lethal Carolina team chasing instead of running out in front. Here's Aiden Lamb. Up to David, another shot. Casual blocker save on that one. Gonna give you guys a little bit more of a zoom here. This is kind of an interesting setup here at the Polar Dome. Got these Wrigley style poles blocking your view. I guess that's a Chicago thing to give poor view of the playing surface. And also a big net. There's a lot of space on the bench, but really nowhere to stand to get around these big old poles. So we're way back in the rafters. Got to give a little bit bigger zoom for you guys back home. But yes, that championship game, Kirkwood, coming back from a multiple goal deficit. They thought they had the game tying goal in the net with 3 seconds left. It was waved off. It was very decisive by the, oh, here's a huge kick save from Rory. Quickly getting the butterfly, keeping that one out. Nice reflexes from her. She still looks sharp after a massive weekend at the Arctic Blast tournament in Wettsville. But yeah, that goal was in the net, but it also was decisively waved off, as here is Bryson getting a shot on goal. So Kirkwood had a little bit of sour grapes with the way that last one ended in Nashville Shootout Championship. Looking for some revenge, some unfinished business here as they get to meet back up with them here in East Dundee, Chicagoland area. Carolina looking for the exit. Pass is loose. So they reload back behind their own goal. Here comes the Kirkwood forecheck. That's Leo Bauer in behind for Kirkwood. Carolina comes up this near side, navigating traffic through the neutral zone. Drop pass as Kirkwood sends it up. Now over. Leo gains the blue line. Puck squirts loose to the far boards. Getting a little physical over there. Battling in the corner, that's Bryson now. Here is Jackson, back to Bryson. Carolina steals it away, coming out of the corner. Loose. Back to Jacob. Up into the zone, here comes Jackson. He'll take that loose puck. Tied up behind the goal. Carolina has it. And Aiden, nice speedy back check by him. And here's David coming in again, Kirkwood's goal scorer. Puck gets out to neutral ice. Jacob is there, ready and waiting for it. Flips it forward, supported by Sam. Kirkwood gains the blue line, but only momentarily. It's back out to center ice. And back in, here comes Aiden on his horse for the forecheck. Almost beat his defender to the puck there. But Carolina does come out with it. Now, watch this play down the wing. Carolina scored a couple goals when they have more time and space on that attack down that right side wing. They like to do a drop pass to a trailing attacker, and then that creates an open shot. They scored the first goal of the tournament against Kirkwood in Nashville like that, and did it again in a later game. I'll be watching out for that set play. And it's that kind of set play, not even off a face-off, but just in live hockey, that gives you an idea of what kind of team Kirkwood's dealing with here. They are a higher caliber of competition than they are used to. Not just speedy, not just skilled. And here they are in on net, missing everything high and wide. That did not happen very much in Nashville. Usually when they got those looks, they were forcing a save, but quite frankly, they were beating Rory and scoring it into the net. Very rare to see them just miss everything like that on a wide open breakaway look. Here they come down the wing again. Skating to the top of the slot. Drop passes picked off by Will. He chases it in on the forecheck. Carolina coming out of their own zone. Nice step by Bryson at center ice. He's in, shooting, blocker save. Bodie tried to send it low. Carolina steals it and sends it out. This will not be icing. As Blake backhands it back up that same side. Here's Carolina trying to send it in, but clogged up on the boards by Bryson. Now they get it deep. Bodie goes behind his own goal, flips it forward to a teammate on these near boards. Now out to Bryson on the exit and sends it all the way up to Jackson. He battles for it behind Carolina's goal. Carolina steals it there. Kirkwood not giving them much of a path for the exit. It comes into the slot. Only black jerseys are there. Jackson flips it low with the backhand. Carolina flips it up and out. Good stick by Gavin there at center ice, but Carolina keeps coming. Here's Sam down the near boards. Pile up of players there right in front of Carolina's bench. And we have a whistle. Kirkwood leading 1-0 here with an early goal by David Kukla, putting the Stars out in front, giving them a very different script than they had in any of their 3 chances in Nashville against this same squad. And here's Jacob sending it forward to Aiden, makes a move. Quick shot, rebound. Oh, David was there, but it's squirted past him. Hard rebound. Aiden's in on the puck again. David calling for it down in the corner. He can't grab the handle. It goes to the other side of the goal. And Carolina trying to build a rush here. It has been Kirkwood setting up camp in the offensive zone, establishing some pressure and possession. So Kirkwood looking like a different team against this Carolina side than they did in Nashville. Looking very comfortable against this Junior Canes team, as here they are in just barely offsides across the blue line. You know, I walked into the building and you're right behind the ice, and it just immediately looked like this sheet was bigger, at least wider than what we're used to playing on in St. Louis, and it just immediately became nervous, like we cannot have more ice to cover against such a fast team like this. But Kirkwood is holding up very well here early, not just with the 1-0 lead on the scoreboard, but just looking at the play on the ice, they are very comfortable right now. Carolina has had a couple dangerous looks at the goal, but it has not been the onslaught that they saw in Nashville. Here's a rush from Carolina, 3-on-2. Long shot goes into the goal. Carolina ties it. I've been saying a lot recently that when teams settle for that long shot just across the blue line, that is a goalie's best friend, but they beat Rory on it here. That is a rare sight to see. Usually you gotta get in close to get it past her, or if you're gonna take a long shot like that, there needs to be traffic in front to either block her vision or get the rebound. But that was a different story. Here they are in front again. That was more along the lines of what I think Carolina needs to do to get past Rory, but they miss wide of the post. on that centering pass. So Carolina evening it 1-1 here. After the early goal by David Kukla, Carolina claws back on a long shot from just inside the blue line. No black jerseys in front of the goal. Really surprised to see that, especially after the weekend Rory had last weekend in the Arctic Blast tournament. But I do think it speaks to the notion that Carolina has probably a different caliber of shot from back there than she's used to seeing. Probably has a little bit more pace on it and is placed a little bit better. So caught off guard by that shot, and we are tied 1-1. Bodie up to Leo. Carolina turns it around. Blake back forward in the corner. He's got Bryson out. And that is Bryson on the puck now. Coming up these near side boards. Out to Jackson at center ice. Navigating traffic as he enters the blue line. Goes down just on the side of the slot. Referee's arm stays down as well. We play on. Puck goes behind the goal. Here comes that. Not sure who that is on the forecheck, but some good pressures. Bryson comes in, and now puck squirts loose to the goalie who covers. So 1-1 here. I'm just realizing I don't have much of a view of the game clock. Hard to see how much time we have left in this first period from my vantage point. We are just under a minute to go here in the first period. Got, again, one of those Wrigley-style pulls in my way. Here's a backhand front, right in front of the crease. Jacob holding the line, sending it deep. Behind the goal, loose to the far boards, and now out. Up to David here on the wing. Carolina back out. Kirkwood's ready for it at center ice. Re-enters the zone. Carolina takes it back out. Here they have a 3-on-2 rush. Shot. It goes wide. Top of the slot. Shot bounces to Rory. Offer pads and covered. With 1.8 seconds left here in the first frame. Tied up 1-1. Quick draw, and that'll do it for the first period. Really strong period from the Kirkwood Stars, grabbing the early lead on a goal by David Kukla, 2-on-1 rush, and he ripped it in to the upper 90. Carolina answered and leveled the game later on in the frame with a long shot just inside the blue line on a rush of their own. Beat Rory from way out there. Pretty rare sight to see, if I do say so myself. So all tied up, but I think more importantly than the score right now for Kirkwood is the fact that they seem to even have the upper hand in the possession and pressure of this one. Had to play more of a counter-attacking style against Carolina in their first 3 games back in Nashville, but they've been able to be on the puck and be in the offensive zone at a much higher rate this time around. I think that speaks to their development as a team and just being able to play more as a team. You know, that's what's so fun about these youth hockey seasons, is that they are always developing and progressing at a much higher rate than you see, at established levels. You watch pros, you watch college, those players and teams are much more settled into who they are. Of course, there is room for improvement even at the highest levels of the game, but when you're 11, 12 years old, you're just always growing, always getting better, and there's just the gaps in room for improvement is just so much wider here. And so it's always fun to see how these teams gel and improve and get better over the course of the season. And I think we're seeing just how big of a leap Kirkwood has made since that Nashville tournament in the way that they've been able to really skate with this Carolina team in a way that is quite different than what it looked like in the Nashville Shootout. Here comes Carolina, chasing it back and reloading in their own end. That pass was deflected, goes to the far boards. They're going to try to reset again behind their own goal. Here it comes. That's Will on the forecheck, puck by him. Out to Blake. Spins it around. Jaden carrying it in. Switching to the weak side. That's Will again here on the wing. He sends it behind the goal. Funny bounce off the boards. Comes back out to the crease. Goalie keeps it live. Shot trickles just wide of the post. Will battling for it. Carolina sending it out. Little moment of pressure there from Kirkwood as Bodie gets to it first. He goes behind his own goal. Now over to Jaden. Another bouncing shot just wide of the post. Up the boards and out to Jacob at center ice. He sends it right back in, but offsides. So we stay 1-1 early here in the second period. First game of the Clash of the Sticks here in Chicagoland. This is Greater Chicagoland area here in East Dundee at the Polar Dome. As Carolina flips it forward. They try one of those drop passes, but it's picked off by Jackson. Stretch pass to Leo on the other side. It gets too far ahead of him. So Carolina battles it out to neutral ice. Back to Gavin. He wraps it around behind Rory and up the boards to Bryson. Carolina coming in. Sending it deep. Gavin's back for Kirkwood. Up the boards. Carolina back on the puck. They are starting to generate some possession of their own in this period. Maybe the ice is tilted in that direction, but Carolina seems to have the upper hand in this period so far, like Kirkwood did going the same way in the first frame. Jacob on the puck behind the goal, sends it up, but picked off. Into the corner, Kirkwood, a little bit of space and time, tries to flip it out, can't get it. Now it's out to neutral ice. Carolina back on the puck. This is what we were seeing from Kirkwood in the first period. This shot goes high and wide. Battle for it on this near side now into the corner. Gavin against two Canes. Gets it up. Exit pass to Bryson. Hard contact. Looked like the hit was going on him, and he just stood strong and delivered a pushback of his own. Carolina in 2-on-2, trying to split the defense, can't get around Gavin and Jacob back there. Now a shot from the face-off circle. Rory's got it in the glove. We stay 1-1 here in the second period. So Carolina looking much stronger here in the second period. They have been on the puck and in Kirkwood's end for a vast majority of this period after Kirkwood seemed like they were the stronger side in that first frame. Haven't seen the speed from Carolina in the alarming way that we saw in Nashville, but they are starting to be more organized and controlling having Kirkwood on the back foot and resorting to the counter-attacking style that they didn't really need as much in the open period. Kirkwood getting in here, but can't set up camp. So it comes back out. Aiden. He gets a loose puck at neutral ice, but it's stolen right away. Here comes Carolina turning that corner. No. Good job by Kirkwood getting back and doing just enough to turn that rush around. Here's Sam, loose puck, top of the slot. Aiden tries for it, supported by Bodie, loading up a wrister, is blocked. In the slot, it goes wide to the backboards. Now Aiden, wrap around at the backhand, followed! It's David again! David Kukla with his second goal of the game. Gets that loose puck on his backhand, flips it up into the open net. That's the Mr. Opportunistic that I was talking about in the build-up. He just always seems to know where to be on those attacks. His first goal to open the scoring was more of a shooter's shot coming in on the rush 2-on-1, just beating the goalie cleanly. This one was the trash man scenario, picking up the loose garbage around the net. It was Aiden Lamb behind the goal, working to win the puck and bringing it aggressively to that near side, short side post. Was initially denied, kept fighting, kept shooting. Is this one? Another long shot beats Rory. Blocker side. And we're level again now, 2-2. You just don't see that back in St. Louis. These long shots with no traffic in front. It's just the most routine save that Rory has with any pace on it. But two of them getting by her here. It just makes me wonder if they're shooting it at a materially higher pace, as this one bounces around but ultimately covered, or if they're doing something deceptive as they cross the blue line, making it look like they're dumping, shooting it instead. Not exactly sure, can't put my finger on it, but it is just very noticeable to see those shots go in. You see that a lot from Northwest Arkansas. Saw it a couple times from some other teams like the Rockets, like the Ice Hawks, where they'll take that quick shot coming inside the blue line, and I just always feel like it's doing Rory a favor when teams settle for that shot. But they've beaten her twice with it today, so they got something working for them. Wasn't just an outlier the first time. Now it's a bit of a trend. So 2-2 here. David with both goals for Kirkwood, and both of Carolina's answers have come on the long distance snipe. This one slides all the way to her pads. Had to get down quick for that one. That came in on top of her very rapidly. She keeps it out, but it does go all the way for icing. So we'll come back into Kirkwood's end. I really don't mind the long shot as much when a team has traffic in front that can block her vision or be ready for a rebound. That's when the long shot from inside the blue line makes a lot more sense to me. But those early rush shots, this is really the only time I've ever seen it work, especially against a goalie like Rory. Carolina coming in again, makes a move. Bodie gets just enough of him to disrupt the rush. As they battle for it behind Rory on the boards. Goes loose into the corner, up to Aiden at center ice. He's got two Canes in front of him. Wants to turn the corner, can't quite get around that defender. This one slides into Kirkwood's end. Aiden working hard to work it out. Supported. Long shot blocked. Sam grabs it on the far boards. Back to Aiden, slaps it down low. Bryson behind the goal. Gets it back to Gavin at the point. Some of the Kirkwood supporters wanted a penalty there. They don't get it, and here comes Carolina. Into the corner, Sam gets a stick to it. Back out to the point for the Canes. Long shot coming, Rory bats it away with the blocker. Back out to the point, bouncing behind the goal. Gavin fighting for it back there. Bryson in on to help. Still battling now into the corner, 2-on-2. Kane goes down, losing an edge. And Carolina has it on the other side, into the slot, picked off by Sam. And out to neutral ice. Aiden's on it, one man to beat. They get a stick to it. Down low, Bryson, rebound. And the goalie covers. We stay 2-2. In Nashville, when Carolina looked most dangerous, it's when they came across the blue line with speed like that, but instead of settling for the shots, they really hit the accelerator and was routinely able to turn the corner on Kirkwood's back line. Those back two defensemen were often found themselves turning around as Carolina turned the corner on them. So that's why I'm so surprised to see them settling for those long distance shots, but can't argue with the results. But it's when they just swoop down the wing and turn the corner on the defender, that's when it caused major problems for Kirkwood in Nashville. Then there was also that drop pass on the wing that was also pretty effective for this Carolina side. Haven't really seen either of those two attacking styles. Though the two goals today are very different looks than they gave us in that earlier tournament. This one switched to the weak side. Will has it stolen away. Carolina coming with a little bit of speed. Long sliding shot off of Rory's pads. Blake has the rebound, takes it into the corner. Now up to Jaden. Now Will. Stolen there at neutral ice. Battle for it there. Kirkwood comes away with it. Jaden skating in. Drop pass of his own. Centering to Bodie, time and space. Gets that. Oh, and the puck was loose behind the goalie, but it's swept away and stays out. Great chance for Kirkwood there to retake the lead. And now we have a penalty behind the play. I heard some disgruntlement from the Kirkwood bleachers. Looked around behind me just in time to see the referee's arm go in the air. Not exactly sure what happened, but seems like Carolina defender got tangled up with a Kirkwood forward. Whatever the case may be, Carolina does go to the bench for the game's first penalty, and Kirkwood will have the power play, although here they are defending a shorthanded attack by Carolina. This one wraps around. Carolina's still on the puck, shorthanded. Out to the wing. Shot is deflected up into the netting behind the goal. So even on the penalty kill, this Carolina team is coming forward. It's Kirkwood with the man advantage, but it is Carolina in on the attack. Very clean first half of this game, as this is the first penalty of the contest, which was pretty indicative of how things went between them in Nashville, although that championship game, third period, got very chippy, and there was a lot of traffic to the penalty box, which is what helped Kirkwood work its way back into that one. 3 seconds. Here's a long shot, squeezed by the Carolina goalie. So Kirkwood will get an offensive zone face-off here on the power play. 39 seconds left with the man advantage. It is Bryson on the dot for the Stars. He wins the draw. Back to Blake, who backhands it forward down low to Leo. He wins it there. On the other side to Jackson. Centering pass is picked off. What hand-eye coordination by Bodie to keep that one in. Batting it out of the air to hold the line. He sends it deep. Carolina will try again and again. Bodie holds the line. Now Carolina breaks out. Coming in, trying to split the defense. Shooting. Rory's looking for it. And Kirkwood has it. That's Blake on the puck, gaining the blue line. Carolina returns to full strength as Kirkwood centers it into the slot, but Carolina is there to take it back. And Kirkwood, Bryson just getting onside as Leo gained the blue line for the Stars. Drops it back to the point. Bobble there, so Kirkwood will have to reset. Carolina coming in. Nice stick by Bodie to knock that back out. And that will do it for period number 2. Just like first intermission when it was tied 1-1, we are still knotted now 2-2. Another goal by David Kukla and another answer from Carolina on a long shot from just inside the blue line on a rush where they had a lot of space to work with, but settled for the long distance shot, beat Rory for the second time that same way. And we are all tied up 2-2. This is reminding me now that Rory did go into that Nashville tournament a little bit banged up from a sledding or snowboarding accident, falling on her wrist and spraining it a bit. There was concern about her availability for that one, but she did play and was pretty strong in between the pipes, but I remember that being a big conversation. She is fully healthy this time around and coming off one of her best weekends of hockey that I have ever seen. This is my 3rd year in a row getting to watch her, as she's been on David's team the last 2 years in addition to this one, and I've always been very impressed by her, but last weekend was a new peak in her play. But both of these goals, I will say, in all fairness, have been a little bit uncharacteristic for her. But Kirkwood playing with this Carolina team, all tied up 2-2. I'd say Kirkwood had the upper hand in the first period in terms of possession and pressure. Carolina with a major pushback in the second period, especially on the front end of that last period, really dominating the puck in the offensive zone. Evened out a bit down the stretch of that middle frame, but teams have traded sides on the puck for the majority of the period. Hopefully that trend continues. It's all been going this same way, left to right on your screen. That's where the flow has mostly been. As here's Carolina shooting from the face-off circle, blocked. Centering pass is picked off, broken up by Kirkwood, loose in the slot, and Aiden jumps on it. Kirkwood in offsides. So yes, Kirkwood Stars hoping to keep the flow of play going left, right on your screen as it has for most of this one. They came out looking very strong in the first period with all the apprehension around the quality of this Carolina team, their speed, their organization, their finishing skill. Kirkwood looked like the better side in the first period. Got to see Carolina really step things up in the second, but haven't really flashed that lethal turn the corner speed with the finishing punch like we saw in Nashville. Kirkwood able to handle their attack a little bit better, actually a lot bit better, to be honest about it. As here is a stretch pass to center ice, coming in, and that's Blake diving out, stretching with his stick, getting just enough of it to break that up. Great hustle play from Blake as Carolina attacker did get by him, but didn't give up on the play and did everything he could to get just enough of it. Out to Will, switches to the weak side, but nobody home for Kirkwood over there. Carolina comes in, nice stick by Jaden to get it out of the zone. Puck slides back in to the backboards. Bodie's on it with time and space as Carolina goes for a change. Up the boards. Kirkwood, now Aiden gains the blue line with speed. Centering pass from the corner. Goes through everyone and out. Aiden sends it back up the boards. Carolina switches and sends it up the ice. Shot, kick save, follow, Rory's there again. Huge saves from Rory Murray to keep us level 2-2. Carolina in close that time. Rory got the pads out on the initial save and was there again for the follow-up attempt. Carolina looked in great position for that rebound, but couldn't get by Rory, and we stay tied 2-2. David Kukla with both goals. Kirkwood, one in the first, one in the second. He was on the dot for the start. He still is on the dot here, taking that face off as Carolina comes in. Now turning the corner, centering, swept out and sent the length of the ice. Sneaks by the post for icing. So that'll bring the puck all the way back to Kirkwood's defensive end. David scoring on a 2-on-1 rush in the first period. Had the defender frozen before he ripped it into the net. Was there on a loose puck for a backhanded rebound to score goal number 2 after Aiden did the work, winning the puck behind the goal, taking it to the short side post, continuing to battle it into the crease before it bounced loose to David with the wide open net for the backhand. As Blake chips it up the boards. David gets a stick to it as well. It's Jaden on the puck now as it gets sent back towards Kirkwood's blue line. Loose to Bodie, up to Sam. Centered and picked off there, but Bodie back on the puck for Kirkwood. Dangling through traffic on those far boards. That's David, up to Jaden. And Carolina resets behind their own goal. Now out to neutral ice. Will on the puck, loses it on to a forechecker. Here comes Carolina, broken up by Blake. Blake carrying it out himself, makes a couple men miss. Still on the puck. And Will loses an edge. Carolina comes out 1-on-3. Another Kane joining the rush. Loose puck. Liam gets a stick to it. Bodie clogs up the slot. He chips it around and up the boards. Will exit pass. Slips by Sam at the center line and goes the length of the ice for icing. So 2-2 here in the third period. 7:04 left on the game clock. Looks like Liam Gale taking the face off is here. Schlott slides to Rory, and she slides over to keep out the rebound as well. There was a gap between the post on the short side and her pad, but she closed it just in time to keep us tied 2-2. This one slides past her into the corner. Liam looking for a teammate, lifts it out to Jackson. Carolina gets a stick to it. Kane's coming the other way. Nice stick by Gavin to break it up the rush. Now he goes into the corner for it. Centering pass is deflected out to the point. This one gets all the way to Rory, and she quickly covers. We stay tied with 6:05 left on the game clock. Both teams going for a change on the whistle. It's Bryson on the dot in the face-off circle for Kirkwood. Canes win it back to the point. Bodie on it, sending it up and out. But again, it goes all the way for icing. So again, we come back into Kirkwood's defensive zone. This could end up being a huge leverage game in the standings. Top two teams of the group on paper, at least. As Carolina holds the line, now Kirkwood is out. Carolina flips it forward. Bodie waiting for it at the blue line, gets it back up to Jaden. Carolina takes it there, dangles around a defender, and that little bit of hesitation around traffic was just enough to get the Canes off sides. 5:26 left. If there does end up being a loser of this game and this tie is broken, whoever does not take points out of this still will have a path to the championship game. Only 4 teams in the group, but whoever does come away with the win, if there is indeed a winner, will be set up very nicely for Saturday's slate of games to earn the spot in the championship. Here's a shot from the wing. Goes to the far boards. Bodie gets a stick to it. Up to Sam. Now to David. Turning the corner. Sliding it with the backhand just wide. He is on hat trick watch. Here comes Carolina the other way. There they are, turning the corner, but can't get the stick around for the backhand and the finishing blow. So Kirkwood coming the other way. That was Aiden. Looked like he was building speed, but gets turned around. David carrying it in deep, turning it around. Puck goes over to Jackson. Deflected out to the point, that's Gavin. Sends it through the slot. David was there. Couldn't get his stick to it. Jacob Blocked in the slot. Carolina coming out. Long shot into the glove. That is how Carolina scored both of their goals this game. That long shot from just inside the blue line. That one was easy enough for Rory. Following it all the way into their glove. And we stay tied 2-2. 3:48 left in the game. Carolina centering pass. Oh, and Kirkwood's defense couldn't get a stick to it, and now it's in the goal. Oh man, I thought Kirkwood had several chances to keep it out. Initially on the pass, the defenseman was there and just mishandled it. Couldn't get enough of the stick on it, but even as it got to Carolina's stick instead, Rory made the initial save on the point-blank shot. But they kept battling for it and did ultimately get across the goal line. Really feel like that one should have stayed out on several accounts there. But Carolina does grab their first lead of the game. Very different looking goal than their first two. Just a lot of chaos there as that centering pass came in from the corner and just frankly wasn't handled very well by the Kirkwood Stars. This one slides into the corner. Still just over 3 minutes left to go here for Kirkwood to pull level again. It is Will on the puck, skating it out, gaining. Carolina going behind their own goal and up the far boards, building speed through the neutral zone, coming around the corner, shooting. Rory says no. Carolina top of the face-off circle, stretched out, pad save by Rory, and then good clearance by Kirkwood. Here Carolina has it in close. Again, the door is closed. Battle for it in the corner. Out to Jackson. Doesn't have much help here as Kirkwood was going for a change. Puck behind the goal. Bodie with the nice steal back there. And does send it up and out. Just barely across the blue line, so it comes back in offsides. You saw there after that third goal by Carolina, they had a much more dangerous looking attack, and Kirkwood did an excellent job of cleaning that one up. Looked very strong on defense there after a very shaky goal given up for the go-ahead by the Canes. Centering pass. This one slides wide. Wrap around. Carolina's still on it. Gavin trying to dig it out of the corner. 1:30 left in the game. Jaden loses the puck. This one is shot from a sharp angle. Rory keeps it out. We play on. Kirkwood can't get it out of the zone. Again into the corner. Now 1:05 left. Puck comes loose into the face-off circle. Carolina loses an edge. And Jacob sends it out, but only black jerseys are there. Here's Jaden on the forecheck. Gets a shot. Glove saved by Carolina. With 49 seconds left in the game. It's David on the dot for the Stars. Wins the draw back. Puck comes in low. Carolina trying to clear it. Now they get out. Empty net. Took a shot at the empty net. Interesting decision here to pull the goalie in group play where goal differential could matter. But Kirkwood really going all out here to try to get this point back in the standings. This one is flipped out to Blake. 13 seconds left. That one is whistled offsides at the blue line. Twelve and a half seconds to be exact now. Rory comes back into the goal. Kirkwood showing a lot of urgency, trying to earn this point back after the late go-ahead goal by Carolina. David on the dot for the Stars. Tries to push forward with it. Carolina, it's loose into their own end, but that's going to drain the puck out. And that'll do it. Carolina stealing a point from the Stars here late. Taking the win 3-2. Kirkwood played this one either from in front or level on the scoreboard almost the entire way until that late goal on a loose puck in front of their net. Kirkwood will feel like they had the Canes where they wanted them, played the game they wanted to play, didn't get the result. It ends up going as Carolina's fourth win against Kirkwood in as many tries, but this was a very different script than what we saw in Nashville between the same two teams. Kirkwood getting an early lead in the first period on him, and his winger opted to shoot it and read. Carolina did equalize later in that first period on a long shot from inside. David again gave Kirkwood another lead with another goal. It was Aiden Lamb working it from behind the goal, short side attacking the post, following up with his own rebound before David eventually backhanded it into a wide open net for a 2-1 lead. And then again, almost immediately after that, Carolina leveled the game with a long shot from just inside the blue line, again on the early end of a rush, again with no traffic in front to either block Rory's vision or get a rebound, just beat her clean from long distance for a second time. Went into second intermission tied 2-2, and it was a pretty even battle after the first period really went to Kirkwood and Carolina even, but it was a centering pass from the corner that got loose in front of the net. The defenseman just was in position, but just couldn't get the stick to it like he should have. And then even with that mishap, Rory was in position for the stop, the initial save on the first attempt. Really point blank chance for Carolina turned aside, but that rebound also went loose and some chaos ensued. And Carolina did work it over the goal line for their first and only lead of the game. It was enough to win, but Carolina never trailed against this Kirkwood team in Nashville. Found themselves behind twice in this game. And Kirkwood just played a completely different game against Carolina this time around. Looked much more comfortable with this caliber of an opponent. There were a couple of flashes of speed, especially late there after that third goal by Carolina. They had one of their most dangerous looking attacks of the entire game, coming with down the wing and cleanly turning the corner on Kirkwood's final defender. That one looked like it was going to give Kirkwood way more trouble than the attack that ultimately led to the third goal, but Kirkwood dealt with that one beautifully. kept it a 1-goal game. But it was just only a few of those flashes from Carolina. So Kirkwood looking much more comfortable against this Carolina side. If they do what they need to do tomorrow in both of their games to fight back into a championship seat, they will likely play this Carolina team, and they should carry a lot of confidence in that game, knowing that they can absolutely skate with the Canes, they can absolutely play with the Canes, and from what I saw today, they absolutely can beat this team. They, had long stretches where they looked like the more dominant side, had the upper hand, especially in the first period, did not need to resort to purely playing a counter-attacking style that you see when one team is overmatched. They went head-to-head with Carolina here and gave them all they could ask for. It's disappointing to not get the result you want, to not get even a single point in the standings from it, but a game like this shows a lot of progress and a lot of development from Kirkwood. That's a huge win in my book and a very encouraging sign. And then it's really important, mostly, for if these teams do meet up for a 5th time on Sunday's championship game, Kirkwood's going to feel way different about that experience than they would have had they been boat raced another time here like they were in that middle game in Nashville, or even in the championship game of Nashville when they were chasing multiple goals for most of the game. This game had a completely different vibe, looked like a different Kirkwood team, honestly looked like a different Carolina team. A little progression from Kirkwood and, dare I say, a little regression from Carolina. But I think the vibe going into a potential rematch on Sunday is going to be way, way different after what we saw here today. But a lot of work for Kirkwood to do tomorrow before we can really talk about that in earnest. Got to get the job done against the other 2 opponents in this group. That's the Rockford Rams will be the late game, and it will be the Arctic Zombie Sharks in the same time slot tomorrow. Arctic Zombie Sharks, also known as the Orland Vikings. I think the Arctic Zombie Shark moniker is just like a tournament alias, maybe. Couldn't really find them outside of their traditional club name online, but we'll see what they bring tomorrow. Don't know too much about those teams. The main ranking system does have Kirkwood as a slight favorite against the Sharks and a more material favorite against the Rams, but you never can really tell with these things. Sometimes the team you see on the ice is a lot different than the one you see on paper. So a lot of work for Kirkwood to do tomorrow to get back into 2nd place and take that 2nd championship spot, which I do very much anticipate Carolina coming in as the 1 seed to that Sunday final. But we'll say goodbye for now from East Dundee until tomorrow from Rosemont.